Order. If I could get everybody to stand and face in my direction for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Linda, roll call, please.
Okay, Councilmember Andrusik.
Unmute.
Oh.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Yes, I guess I disconnected. I was trying to get my phone muted, my little microphone.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mercado.
Here.
And Mayor Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. Do we have any reordering of the agenda?
No, ma'am, not this evening.
Thank you. Any public comments? We have nobody in the public, but perhaps somebody sent an email in to speak on any subject that they care about for 3 minutes.
No public comment.
Perfect. Okay, business items. When we get into this again, I ask that City Council, since we are all in different locations, if when you have a question or you want to make a comment that you since we are videotaping this, let the public know who is speaking. Our first business item is ordinance number 20-04, an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, temporarily prohibiting evictions of residential and commercial tenants arising out of financial impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As a result of the COVID-19 health orders, there are many businesses that are either closing or severely limiting their operations, resulting in large numbers of businesses and newly unemployed residents without sufficient income to pay their respective rent payments. This has the potential to result in large numbers of potential evictions during the period of the COVID health orders, which could not only hinder the economic recovery of the city, but threaten to push many of its residents into homelessness. The proposed urgency ordinance before you this evening extends protection from eviction for both commercial and residential tenants. While the governor on Friday issued an executive order preventing residential evictions, this proposed ordinance offers greater protection and a more flexible end date in the event that the public health orders extend beyond the end of May. The ordinance is written in such a way that the city is not responsible for its enforcement, but instead provides a legal pathway for a court through an eviction proceeding, provides a legal pathway for a court through an eviction proceeding can determine that the tenant, having met requirements in the ordinance, which would include documentation that their inability to pay is the result of circumstances related to the COVID crisis, is not subject to eviction for a period of time. While protecting the tenants affected by the COVID-19 crisis, the proposed ordinance also protects property owners by requiring that all back rent payments not made during the period of protection established in the ordinance be made within 6 months of the end of the public health orders. As this is an urgency ordinance, it will be required to pass with a 4/5 vote of the City Council to go into effect. This will conclude my report. I'm available for any questions, as is the City Attorney.
Thank you very much. First of all, gentlemen, do we have any questions for our City Attorney or City Manager?
No. No.
I hear 2.
No.
No, 3. Anybody else with a question?
No.
Thank you very much. Bringing it to the public. Do we have any public comment on this item? Urgency ordinance?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Bringing it back to council for discussion. What say you, gentlemen? Well, I
would
will
move to
go ahead.
accept. This is Vice Mayor Mercado. I would move to support ordinance number 20-04 as stated. Councilman King, second.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I do believe that that the way the ordinance has been written, that anybody who finds himself impacted with COVID-19 with financial problems would have to be able to show it to a landlord, a property owner, and this is just one way to help Buellton's economy, I believe. So thank you very much. Any other comments on it before we take a roll call? All righty. Linda, roll call, please.
Okay, Vice Mayor Mercado,
Aye.
Councilmember King,
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
and Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to resolution number 20-10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, authorizing the deferral of water and wastewater payments and the waiving of penalties. Again, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Again, related to the COVID-19 crisis, in order to assist our residents with any economic hardships that may arise out of this, the resolution before you here this evening would authorize the deferral of water and wastewater payments and would waive any penalties. Currently, the municipal code imposes a late fee of 10% on an outstanding balance of water or wastewater payment if it's not received within 20 days of the billing date. Obviously, with large numbers of our population in danger of unemployment or maybe currently unemployed, this could pose a problem and could result in utility shutoffs during the period in which we have health orders outstanding. This not only would pose further economic problems, but it would put people in the position of having to live in a home which does not have water service, which would cause an additional health problem for the residents. To further assist residents and businesses, staff is proposing that the City Council allow deferral of the water payments for a period which would end on either July 31st of this year or 60 days following the lifting of the governor's stay-at-home order and any similar order from Santa Barbara County. And this would be whichever of those orders or whichever of those dates occurs last. From that 60-day point on, payments would be due with the waiver of the 10% penalty that would take place for payments that are late within the period that the health order exists, plus that 60 days. To further assist the residents and businesses, staff is proposing that the City Council direct staff to refrain from the termination of water service due to non-payment for a period of 1 year from the end of the deferral period. So in essence, what we're talking about is basically 14 months from the time that the governor's order is lifted, that water service would not be shut off as long as the party owing the funds were to call the city and ask for a payment arrangement. They would need to indicate that their payment or their lack of payment was due to problems arising from the COVID-19 crisis, and they would need to enter into an arrangement which would allow the payment of the outstanding charges within that 1 year period. As long as that were accomplished and the payment schedule is maintained as the arrangement is set up, then staff would refrain from terminating water service for that particular customer. It's a little bit complicated, and I'm sure I didn't make it any easier by how I explained it, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the City Council may have.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, any questions?
I have one. This is Vice Mayor Mercado. I have one for Scott. If for some reason the federal government extends some of these same type of things, would this supersede that, or would the one from the federal government supersede it?
I guess it would depend upon what came down from the federal government, and we would probably need to get the city attorney to weigh in on it at that point. I'm not sure. Are we expecting something from the federal government in this regard?
So I'm not expecting anything from the federal government on utilities. If something did come down, then obviously we'd look at it right away, and we would come back to the council at the next regular meeting after the federal government acted to explain what that action was and give you some options for response.
Okay. Any other questions? I did have one myself. You said that this would defer water, wastewater payments because of the COVID-19. Would we be asking for the same type of, same type of proof from the residents as the eviction, or how do we go about determining?
We did discuss that, and the difficulty with that given the size of our staff and the automation that takes place within our finance department to allow us to operate the water and wastewater billing service with a staff as small as what we have. Trying to require documentation of everyone who may have this issue would prove to be a little onerous and difficult to maintain for the one person we have working this at the staff level. Instead, the expectation is that we would continue to send out notices with the current bill and continue to send out the late notices as we typically do, with the hope that for 90% of the people out there that have the ability to make those payments, the payments would continue to happen, and that at the end of that period, we'd be able to manage a much smaller group by talking to them individually, finding out what their circumstances are, and then moving forward with a payment arrangement at that time.
And my guess is this probably wouldn't even, 10% of the population probably would not even use this.
Yeah, my guess is it'll be much smaller. Even those who may be having difficulties are likely to pay their water bill, but we'll have to see. We just don't know
But
what
it's
the
something we
impact
can
is
offer
gonna
them
be.
to help them get through
Yes.
this.
This is also something that we will probably not publicize. It will just be something, essentially what we're asking for is for the city council to give staff the flexibility to use with residents who indicate a need, rather than putting this out there as an advertised program of the city, hey, don't pay your bill this month. We just would like to have the ability to deal with these on a case-by-case basis and allow that deferral, allow the waiver of penalty, and establish arrangements with a time frame of 1 year as opposed to the much shorter time frame we typically employ.
Wonderful, thank you. Any more questions?
Well, this is Councilmember Kay. I do have one. So this basically, Scott, is going to defer all penalties for that time frame. Because according to this, under our section 1314.030, we have a 10% late fee, but this is going to basically waive all those late fees for that entire period of repayment, correct?
Well, yes and no. Currently, we waive those late fees if a customer who doesn't pay has called and made a payment arrangement. As long as they stick to the payment arrangement, then the penalty is waived. What this would do is it would allow that penalty to be waived during the time of the health order, plus an additional 60 days, during which time they would need to call and make a payment arrangement, which conceivably they would have done already when they first couldn't meet their payment. So we would be aware of their situation early on. This would just allow that again, that longer period, that 12-month period, to waive those penalties as long as they met the payment arrangements, to allow for people to make the city whole again. Right now, we're typically dealing with someone who may not have paid for a month or two, and we'd be looking potentially at someone who may not have been able to pay for 3, 4, 5 months, depending upon the length of this health order, and they may need that longer period to make that work.
So if you go past let's say this ends 30 days, then you're giving them 60, and if after that 60 days they're not paying again, say 2-3 months, those penalties will be applied to those months after the 60 days.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Opening it up to the public, looking around the room, I don't see anybody. Linda, anybody send a question in to you?
No comments.
Closing it to the public, bringing it back to council for discussion and action.
I will make a motion that we adopt resolution number 20-10 as written and presented by staff.
That was Councilman King.
Councilmember King.
Thank you.
Second.
Who seconded?
Councilmember Sanchez.
Sanchez, thank you very much. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember King,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Mercado,
Aye.
and Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. That's business items. We're moving on to city manager's report.
Given that this is a special meeting and we have nothing out of the ordinary going on right now, I will refrain from a city manager's report this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions the city council may have.
Any questions?
What's on the menu?
Mr. Murphy?
And Scott, I would put an asterisk on that, out of the ordinary.
Wow. That was said tongue-in-cheek, thank you.
Greg?
Thank you, ma'am. We have one item of potential initiating of Code Section 54956.9D4 to discuss in closed session.
All righty. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll talk to you in 5 minutes. I guess we won't see you.
Okay,
John will probably be coming in.
all right. Well, that was efficient.
Thanks for coming in, Linda.
You're welcome. That went well.